We're going to look at some more advanced techniques for differentiating between controls in our look and feel functions. Today we'll be focusing on buttons, but the techniques can be applied to any controls. You can also combine these techniques together to handle more complex situations. In this project, we've got 3 buttons and a floating tile, and the text of each button is going to be used to determine how it appears, how we style it in our look and feel function. So the first button, its text is set to icon-star. The second one has its text set to text click me. Let me just zoom in on that. Text click me. And the third one just has its text set to, where is it? There we go. Toggle. So those are our 3 buttons, and then the floating tile is set to show the channel list. And we'll take a look at that one later on. For now, we'll just focus on these 3 buttons. We're going to use string manipulation of the button's text to differentiate between the controls and set their appearance. But don't feel limited to only using a control's text. You can also use other properties of the control to differentiate it from other controls. For example, you can use its position, its dimensions, or its color properties. And these are just a few examples, but you can really use any of the properties if it helps you distinguish one control from another within your look and feel functions. So the first thing we need to do, is zoom in. I'm using the new script code editor here, so it's got this fancy zooming in, and we've also got the same thing for the console, which should come in handy. So the first thing we need to do is create our look and feel object. So this is exactly the same as we did in the last tutorial. Engine.create global script look and feel. And I'll hit F5 on that. And you can see there's some weirdness happens over on the UI already, but that's okay. The next thing we need to do is register a function so we can access the look and feel for the buttons. And again, this is exactly the same as we did in the previous video. So we're going to write LAF, that's our laugh object, register function. You can see the autocomplete has popped up there, so I'll just hit enter. And the function name is going to be draw toggle button. And the function is just going to be the standard look and feel function with the G and OBJ parameters. Now, as soon as I hit F5, all of our components on the UI are going to vanish. So we'll just zoom in so we can see them vanish more clearly. There we go. So the only hint we've still got is we can see the scroll bar for the floating tile there. So we'll start by putting the button's area property into a variable called A. This is just so we don't have to type out obj.area every time we want to use that property. I do this with all of my look and feel functions. obj.area. So it just makes it a bit quicker to access that property. Our first button has the text icon star, and I'm going to set the dimensions to 50 by 50, so it's a square. Now, you probably noticed I've included a file at the top of this script called paths.js. Let's take a quick look at that file. So it contains a namespace that's also called paths, and this is a good way to work with namespaces. Make sure the file name and the namespace match. So the namespace is paths, the file is paths.js. Let's disable this line breaks thing that's part of the new editor. So I've created 2 SVG paths. One for a star, this is from material icons, so that's that one there, icons.star, and one for a down caret symbol, so that's this one here. And these paths have been stored in an object called icons. So icons.star holds one of them, and icons.caret down holds the other one, and this is where the object's declared up here. So for example, to access the star icon from outside of the namespace, I'd have to write paths.icons.star. Or instead of putting .star, I could put it in square brackets and write the word star. So this will become important very soon. And the same thing if I wanted to access the caret symbol, it'd be caret down. If I had more icons, more SVG paths I wanted to use, they'd also go inside this file. I've shown in another video how to create these paths, and you can also read more about how I recommend working with namespaces and paths in my coding standards guide. I'll leave a link to both of those things in the video description if you're interested. So if we go back to our look and feel function, we're going to check if our button contains the word icon in its text. And if it does, we know that this button should be drawn as an icon. So we'll write if obj.text.indexOf icon does not equal -1. So we're using the indexOf function to check for a substring in the main string. The main string here is the button's text. And this is very similar to the indexOf function we use when we're searching for values in arrays. If the function returns -1, we know that the substring wasn't found, and if it's anything else, so it's not -1, we know that it was found. Now we know the button's text contains the word icon, we're inside this if statement. We need to get the part of the text that contains the name of the icon that we want to draw. So in our case, the name of the icon is going to be star, because this button has its text set to icon-star. So we'll use another string manipulation function for this called replace. Replace returns a new string with some text of the original string replaced with some new text. So let me show you an example. We'll do that outside of this look and feel function. So we'll create a variable called x and we'll set its value to hello world. And we'll create a new variable called y and we'll set it to equal x.replace. So replace is the function here, and we're going to replace hello with the word goodbye. And now if I print out y, we shall see that in the console. So you can see it's printed out goodbye world. If we leave out the second parameter, it's the same as putting empty quotation marks as the second parameter. So leaving it out and putting empty quotation marks is the same thing. And that effectively removes whatever the first parameter is from the string. So if I press F5 now, we'll just see the word world printed out. And we get the space at the beginning as well. If we wanted rid of the space, we could put a space there. And I'll hit F5 again and we get rid of that space at the beginning. So in our if statement inside our look and feel function, we're going to replace the text icon hyphen, and whatever is left will be stored in a new variable, which we'll call icon, and this will be the name of the icon that we want to draw. So we'll do var icon equals obj.text.replace icon hyphen. And we can have a look at that now. Console.print icon, we'll see what it prints out. Just clear that. So it prints out the word star, which is what we'd expect because it's removed the icon hyphen portion of the text. So now we can use this to access the star SVG path in our paths namespace that we looked at earlier. So we'll set the color and we'll use the button's background color property, g.setColor, obj.bgcolor, and now we'll fill the path. So g.fill path, and the path is going to, we're going to access it how I showed before, so it's going to be paths.icons, and instead of writing the name of the icon in here, star for example, we're just going to put our variable, which is this one here, icon, we're going to put that in there, and for the area we'll just put a semicolon on the end. Now when I hit F5, this should draw a nice star for us. There we go. Now the reason we're doing it this way, not just writing the word star, is you may have multiple buttons that all have different icons. So let's duplicate our star button and change its text to icon hyphen caret down. And once I hit enter, you'll see that the button has now been drawn with the down caret icon. And we could change the size of it, of course. We could do this for any number of buttons, and we don't have to change a line of code to have different icons or even different colors, because we can color them from the property editor. Now, I do remember reading on the forum that Christoph recommended against using external variables like our SVG paths inside look and feel functions, as it can lead to stability issues. However, I've not had any issues using paths in this way. If you do find there are problems with your project, you'll need to declare the paths directly inside the look and feel functions. Another thing we'll do here is use different colours when the mouse is moved over the button and when it's clicking the button. So here we're setting the colour to the button's background colour. On the next line, we'll check if the mouse is currently over the button. So if obj.over, and if it is, we're going to set the colour to G, set colour, we're going to set to obj.itemColor1. And this will override the background colour setting we've already applied. So if it is over, then this one will be applied. If it's not over, then this one will be. And we'll do the same thing for the mouse down. So if obj.down, g.setColor, obj.itemColor2. And again, this will override the previous one. So I'll hit F5 on that, and now if I move the mouse over these, let's make them slightly more interesting in colour. We'll make that one red and blue. So now if I mouse over the star, it'll turn red, and then when I click, it'll turn blue. And this button with the caret symbol, that will change as well to whatever colour settings that has. Okay, that's probably the most complicated example out of the way. Let's look at a simpler one. So our second button has the text, where is it? Text, hyphen, and then click me. So we're going to draw the text across this button, and the text we're going to draw is the thing that comes after the hyphen, so we're going to draw click me across the front of the button. So adding on to our if statement here, we'll write else if obj.text.indexOf, so we're using that indexOf function again, text hyphen does not equal -1. So if the button contains the text, text hyphen. Now we need to get the text we want to draw across our button, and we'll use the replace function again to do this, just like we did for the icon button. So we'll have var text equals obj.text.replace text hyphen. So this text variable will now contain just the text we want to write, which is anything that comes after the phrase text hyphen in our button's text. I know that's using the word text a lot, but hopefully you're following along with that. And of course, if the text you want to display actually contains the phrase text hyphen, you'd have to use some other text to differentiate it. So all we need to do now is colour our button. So we'll do g.fillAll obj.bgcolor, and then we'll set the colour to draw the text. Set colour obj.textColor, and now we'll actually draw the text across the button. G.draw align text, and the text we're going to draw is our text variable. The area is going to be A, which is our variable we've got up here, the area of the button, and the alignment can be centered. And if hit F5, we should see the text appear on our button. There we go, click me. So anything we put after this text will be written across the front of the button. So let's duplicate our button, and this one, instead of saying click me, we can have it say hello world, and I'll hit enter, and this button says hello world. So just like we did with the icons, you can have multiple buttons all using the same look and feel function, but producing slightly different appearances. So the next example is even simpler than this one. We're just going to have a simple toggle button. If the button's on, it will be one colour. If it's off, it will be another. So we'll add onto our function else if, and again we'll start with our indexOf function, so obj.text index of toggle does not equal -1. So if the button's text contains the word toggle, which button 3, I think, yep, that's the one, contains the word toggle. And if it does, we'll check the button's value using the ternary operator and fill the button with either its background color or its item color 1 property. So obj.value equals 0. So we're saying if the button's off, g.fill all obj.bgcolor. Ternary operator, so else, g.fill all obj.item color 1. And let's turn off line breaks again. So hit F5 on that. And here's our toggle button. Let's change the color so we can see that a bit easier. So off can be green and on can be light blue. Let's make it pink so it's more different than green. So there we go, simple toggle button, on off. You can of course apply the mouse over and down adjustments we use for the icon button, and you can apply them to the text button we did as well, but I'm not going to be using them here. But again, you can combine these different techniques together to create new effects. So our last example is going to be the MIDI channel list. You can also use this technique to customize other floating tiles that have button components. So the MIDI channel list, which we can't see at the moment because it's invisible, but it's here, is actually just a set of buttons. So every single row in here is a button. And we're going to use the object's parent type property to see if our button belongs to a MIDI channel floating tile. So we'll use else if obj.parentType equals, now this time we're using the equals, we're doing a direct comparison, we're not using index of, and we're going to write MIDI channel list. So if it's a MIDI channel list button, will be in this part of our look and feel function, and the first thing we're going to do is draw the button's text. So let's do that. Let's do g.setColor, and this is a little different. We're not actually accessing the color properties of the floating tile here, we're accessing the color properties of the buttons, and since we can't customize them individually, we're a bit more limited. Basically what that means is hard code the colors here. So we'll do colors.white, for example, for the button text. And draw align text, it's going to be obj.text. Area is going to be A, and for the text alignment we'll have left. And if I hit F5, we get our MIDI channel list that we're used to seeing. Now the original MIDI channel list had little checkboxes at the right hand side, so we could, if we had a checkbox icon set up, we could actually draw little checkbox icons. But what we're going to do to keep things simple is we'll just draw some circles, and when we click on them they'll change colour to show which channels are active. So we'll set the colour of the circle using the button's value, just like we did for our toggle button. So obj.value equals 0, but instead of doing g.fill all, we're going to do g.setColor. And I'm just going to hard code the colours here. So I'll have colors.red and g.setColor colors.blue. Now we'll fill in ellipse. We don't want to use the button's full area, otherwise we'll end up with a stretched ellipse that goes from one side of the floating tile to the other. But I'll show you what that looks like. So we'll do g.fill ellipse. So if I just put A in here as the button's area, we're going to end up with these weird ellipses. But the click action works on them, so we can click them on and off. But that's not what we want. We just want a little circle drawn at the end of each one, at the right hand side. So to do this, we're going to have to specify our area manually. So that's going to be an array, and we'll have A1, A2, A3, and nope, it should be A0, shouldn't it, to start with? So A3, 2, 1, 0. So we're just rewriting our array at the moment. So if I hit F5, it's going to just look exactly the same. But we're going to change these. So for the X, we want it to be over at the right hand side, but then in a bit. So we've got to come in the width that we're going to have the button, whatever that's going to be, and then maybe a bit more for a margin. So the width of the button, so the right hand side is going to be the width of the entire button, so that's going to be A2, and we'll minus off 30, let's say, to bring it in from the right hand side by 30. We might adjust that later. The Y position, that can actually be left as it is, that can just be the button's Y position. And for the width and the height, we want those to be the same, so we'll just make them both the height. We'll just make them A3. And if I hit F5, we'll see how that looks. So that's not too bad. We'll come in a little bit more, make that minus 40. And that'll do. It's pretty good. So now we've got these little circle buttons here. And of course you can go into way more detail with this and style them however you like. So that's our examples for today. These are just starting points. Be creative and expand upon these to meet your needs. You can combine text, colours, icons and shapes to make the UI look and react in the way that you want and that suits your project. I'll be posting the project files made in this video for my highest tier patrons, so keep an eye out for that. If you've got any questions or comments, please leave them below and give the video a thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.